5 minutes before recording this video, I'd had a conversation with my mother. She had just gotten off work and I asked her how was her day. She said my day was long. I said, what happened? She said I was in a 4-hour meeting. I said, okay, how was the meeting? She said it was boring. Oh, okay, Ma. Why was the meeting boring? She informed me that the presenter primarily read his entire content for 4 hours. Can you imagine? 4 hours of somebody reading to you? So I asked her if she got anything useful out of the meeting. Did she learn anything new, or was she engaged at any point during the meeting? And she said, really, no. It was so boring, I couldn't focus. If you do not want that to happen to you in your next long presentation, let's have a conversation now where I will share 3 simple steps with you to help you keep your audience engaged. Hi, I'm Dr. Shalonda Jones. I specialize in helping people learn to own their voice and step into their power as confident speakers. It has been an honor for me to work with students, professionals, entrepreneurs, people in leadership positions, people who want to give toasts at their best friend's wedding. It doesn't matter the occasion. It's an honor for me to help people learn to transform their concerns with public speaking into confidence to give a speech successfully. And speaking of giving a speech successfully, one of the things that you want to do to maximize the success of your next presentation is keep your audience engaged. And there are 3 simple steps that we will talk about in this video. First of all, reading is a no-no. No reading. Second, have a conversation with your audience. Third, learn to ask questions. We'll talk about all 3 of these simple strategies in more detail in just a minute. Before we get into the topic of our discussion today, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't hit it already, because you seem like somebody who's ready to become a confident speaker. And I share great tips every week on how to increase your confidence as a successful speaker. Also, if you like this video, hit the like button. There are other people like us who are looking to build confidence in their ability, particularly in public speaking. So let's share this information to help empower other people. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to help you learn these strategies that will engage your audience during your presentation. Let's get to the topic. I had to get my glasses so that I can see while we're having this conversation. I tried to have this conversation with you without my glasses because I am aware that sometimes a glare is on the lenses, but I couldn't see. All right, let's get into our topic of conversation. I have a question for you. When you are giving a presentation, what is your number 1 goal, particularly for a long presentation? Are you, number 1, excited to share information that is engaging and that will prove to be useful for members of your audience? 2, you want to make sure that you do not forget what you are going to share during your presentation? Or 3, you want to share information that is engaging and make sure you do not forget what you plan to say during your presentation. If your goal is to both make sure you're sharing engaging information with your audience members and make sure you're not forgetting what you plan to say during your presentation, both are attainable. You can attain both of those goals. However, reading is not, big X, reading is not the answer. Reading is problematic for a couple of reasons. Number 1, when you have to give a speech, there is a chance you may experience a little bit of nervousness. And if you experience nervousness, there's also a chance that your pupils in your eyes will dilate. If your pupils dilate in your eyes, then that means your vision becomes blurred. And when you're trying to read, it'll sound more like reading is Reading is not a good idea when you're giving a speech because your pupils might dilate and cause your vision to become blurry. If you want to lose your audience, that's a good way to do it. However, if you do not want to lose your audience and if you want to keep them engaged, reading is a no-no. Here's the second reason why reading is not a good idea. If you read to your audience, you're focused on your content. I'm going to grab my notebook again. You're focused on your content, and it takes away your ability to focus on the mood of your audience. Again, if you want your audience members' minds to wander, ignore them by reading to them. Although it's not intentional that you're ignoring them, that's simply what's happening when you're reading to them. However, if you want to keep your audience members engaged, you have to have a conversation with them and be attentive to them so that you can read their mood. Speaking of having a conversation with them, this is the second way to keep your audience engaged during your long presentation. How can you have a conversation with your audience during a long presentation? Because again, one of your goals is to make sure you do not forget the content that you want to share with them. You've got a lot of important information. I understand that. In order to maximize the conversational tone with your audience, it's important to do two things. Number one, prepare the content in advance that you're going to share with your audience. And two, practice, and practice again. When you prepare the information in advance, you're becoming familiar with what you want to share with your audience. You're becoming familiar with the content. And when you become familiar with the content, it creates a level of comfort in talking about it. Second, when you practice, and practice again, you're increasing your level of comfort with the information that you're going to share. Now, practice. There are 3 times minimally you should practice. Number 1, practice saying your speech out loud. Just practice the content, go from the beginning to the end. Allow yourself to make some mistakes. That's fine when you're practicing. Get comfortable with making the mistakes. When you make the mistakes, then you figure out where you need to focus your energy to practice a little more. The second time you practice your presentation, record yourself. Get comfortable with seeing yourself speaking rather than reading. Look into the camera, look into a mirror while you're recording yourself. Get comfortable with your speaking voice and your conversational voice. Third, recruit some people to be a fake audience for you. That'll get you comfortable with speaking in front of people about the content that you're planning to share. And you can get feedback from your fake audience on how you're sounding conversationally and what they gained from your presentation. Now, one more question for you. Have you ever asked somebody a question that you knew they knew the answer to and you knew the answer to, but you just wanted them to think about what you were discussing with them? Of course you have. We've all done that. And that's a third way to keep your audience engaged during a long presentation. Ask questions between main points. You can ask a question about the information that you just shared, or you can ask a question pertaining to the information you're going to share in the next main point. The key to asking questions, though, is to make sure you're not eliciting a response. You don't want your audience members to have to vocally or verbally respond to you. Nobody likes to be put on the spot. But what you do want is to give your audience members an opportunity to think about the information you've just shared. If you're asking a question to review the main point that you just discussed, or You can give your audience members a peek into what you're going to discuss in the next main point and make them curious. Although they might have the answer to the question that you're asking already, it still makes them curious about how you're going to expound upon the information that they already have. So those are 3 simple things that you can do to help keep your audience engaged during a long presentation. Number 1, reading is a no-no. No more reading. You can keep your audience engaged and you can remember important information about your presentation when you prepare and you practice. Practice, practice, practice. After you prepare and practice, then you are developing your conversational tone when you're speaking with the audience. Conversational tone is definitely going to keep your audience engaged with you. Do you remember what the 3rd thing was that I said? 3rd strategy that I said that can help to keep your audience engaged? If you said ask a question, that's the correct answer. Incorporate questions between the main points to give the audience an opportunity to think. Now remember, you don't want the audience to give you a response, and you know that chances are good they know the response to the kind of question you're asking, but you're keeping them engaged, giving them the opportunity to either reflect on what you've said in the last main point or making them curious about how you're going to expound upon the knowledge that they already have in the next main point that you're going to discuss. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share these simple strategies with you. I've enjoyed this conversation and I'm thankful if you've got something useful from the conversation. If you did, please hit the like button. That's that little thumbs up button under the video so that we can share more information like this with other people who are excited to become confident speakers. As always, until we speak again, be audacious. Have the nerve to do something intentional today to help make your greatest ambition your greatest accomplishment.